Chapter 123 and 124. What are we even doing here? Mei asked, watching a force of 5,000 Kumo mercenaries and ninjas slowly sailing towards the border of the land of Earth through the Isu Bay, as she alongside Conan stood on the tallest hill on the shore. You know it's a job, Conan impassively stated in a tone that clearly made Mei aware the woman would roll her eyes if she didn't wear her cold professional facade. Mei scowled and crossed her arms. You know well that's not what I am asking about. I want to know why you took me and not Ringo. Why here? Why Iwagakure? They tried to kill you and Rei. If anything, we should be helping Kumo forces by making their path towards Iwagakure clear. She grumbled, narrowing her eyes at the approaching ships. You are here because Ringo is not ready y-. Conan said, making Mei snort gleefully. Huh. I can't wait to say this to the sword-waving bitch's face. Mei mockingly exclaimed, interrupting and irritating Conan. Her relationship with Ringo was actually very good, contrary to the meaning of her words. They were, for a lack of a better term, competitors who liked to snark at each other every so often, but never escalated to physical fight. Well, other than some spars. But what Conan said was the truth. Ringo was not yet ready for facing down an army. 6 months of training, but the woman would need at least another year to reach Mei's prowess. But I wouldn't be so loud about that. Conan resisted the urge to smack Mei. As I was saying before you interrupted me, Ringo is not ready yet, but she has more experience. Some of which you still clearly lack if you have to ask why we are here. That shut Mei up somewhat fiercely and instantly. Conan continued only when she saw Mei switch to the lecture-listening mode and would not interrupt her anymore. It's all about balance. Rei is attacking IWA outposts, letting Suna get through their borders and attack. If Kumo succeeded in attacking too, IWA would be quickly overwhelmed, since they have to keep Konoha forces at bay in the land of grass. That, Conan sniffed. We don't want to happen. As much as I don't like the village for trying to kill us, I must admit its existence brings certain benefits. Such as, Mei slowly asked, not really getting it. If you can't come up with anything, then you just show you are not really all that good at scheming part of being a ninja. Power is good, power is necessary, but without a great mind able to plan ahead and reasonable foresight, you will not get far. Conan explained. Mei just nodded, committing the words to her mind, as she thought about the apparent benefit of Iwagakure's existence. Honestly, she definitely could see one or two, but her own stubbornness and want for revenge for the attempt at the life of her two mentors was really making it hard to persuade herself about the usefulness of the Iwagakure's continuous existence. I think it's time. Conan's voice pulled Mei from her contemplation, making her eyes shone with excitement. Sue, how are we doing this? She asked expectantly, a mischievous smirk on her face. Conan slowly turned to Mei with an amusedly raised eyebrow. We? Oh no, Mei. We are not doing anything. I am. You will just stay here, keep the fourth so to speak. After all, it's I who need to earn my SS rank. You are here more to learn more about large-scale combat. Last time you fought it, this time you will see and analyze it, while having my back if anything too unexpected happened. What? But that's not fair. Mei whined only for Conan to lean forward and, much to Mei's annoyance, ruffled the auburn hair of the shorter girl with an indulging smile. Get used to it, brat. That's life, she said in a mock rueful tone with a dreamy sigh at the end. Stop it, or I will melt you. Mei growled, but Conan only flicked her nose in a playful way before turning around and jumping off the hill, flying into the air as her lower body changed fully to paper. Mei knew she lost that argument and will probably suffer during one of their training sessions for it too, but she was just so irritated. Conan literally threw her out of her warm bed, took away her Rei plushie, told her to get ready and meet her in 20 minutes. Heck, she didn't even have the time to properly eat breakfast before they teleported to a clearing near Iwagakure. The same Rei and Conan were hiding when preparing the Hokage monkey prank. And then Mei was forced to make the trek towards the northeastern coast of the Land of Rock. Not the most enjoyable of her mornings for sure. Conan could at least let her kill something. Conan was already quite high above the hill when a bit in front of her. Slices of paper started hovering before their color, started to change into brown as she supported her chakra in order to harden them the most she could. Conan then pulled out something she very rarely used in battle. Her fan unfolded, prepared to rain destruction on her enemies as chakra started to build up, before Conan brutally swung in without mercy, sending raging winds in the direction of the Kumogakure forces as she willed her earth-hardened slices of paper to fly towards them at their fastest speed. The more experienced Kumo ninjas managed to pull out the water wall, lightning jutsu capable of shielding, or any other technique they deemed capable of stopping the ungodly hard projectiles. Unfortunately for them, the ferocious winds that blew above the ocean, due to Conan, didn't only rip the sails, while leaving nasty cut marks all over the ships with some occasional buggers being cut in half. Their primary function was to speed up the hardened projectiles, and the Kumo forces certainly felt that. The defensive jutsus of Kumo ninjas were ripped right through by the rapid hard projectiles, riddling the ninjas, boats, sails, and water with holes alike. It was certainly chaos. People burst into blood, being plummeted by the projectiles. Broken bones, ruptured organs, missing appendages. And when one thought himself lucky enough to survive all that, the hard truth reared its ugly head. The boats became almost unusable due to the holes that went right through the hull, ending all the way in the water under the ship. The ships quickly started filling with water, sinking. May could only watch with her mouth agape at the clean display of wholesale slaughter her mentor just showed her. It was not some showy battle, nor was it a showdown of guts and sweat. Nope. This was a show of gore and blood caused by two jutsu her mentor could perform rather easily. The entire point of it was that Konan cast the jutsu at a good angle, aiming them downwards so the gravity did a very good job, and by the time her projectiles impacted the Kumo fleet, it was as if small meteorites were raining on it. We are finished here. There is no one who could give me a challenge. The strongest dude of the lot is most likely mid-A rank ninja. Konan's impassive voice once again pulled May from her reverie as she watched the fumbling and screaming Kumo soldiers. She didn't even notice when Konan managed to descend from the air, and it certainly made her aware of the ever-present power rift between Konan and her. But they are still alive. May pointed at the small percentage of the previous fleet that was still kicking and screaming loudly. Of course they are. Konan actually broke her facade momentarily and rolled her eyes at May. Who would spread the news if they were not, in fact, alive? Ray surely does the same things and let some of his targets actually walk away completely fine to spread what happened in order to speed up our SS rank bingo book promotion. There are also Awagakure's ninjas hidden all around, keeping a distance from us. Even your new meager skill at nature sensing should pick them up, if you actually bothered to check, she said reproachingly. May flushed a deep red, trying to stammer a few words only to find herself utterly speechless. They are here to collect my bounty, if they found me weak enough to risk it after my fight with the fleet. This is exactly what I wanted to show you today, May. The way you won your first one versus an army situation was stupid and very risky. You didn't account for someone popping up after the battle is over to engage you again. I let you bathe in your glory long enough, but it's time to start your learning again, so from now on, you and Ringo are in Clone Army Challenge training. May pouted but nodded a bit in a subdued manner, a bit fearful of having tens of thousands of clones of different variety flung at her by both Ray and Konan. Alas, fair or not, such is life. Ray groggily opened his eyes, and the first sight that greeted him was the beautiful mess of blonde hair spreading all over his chest as Tsunade's cheek was blissfully snuggling into it, while she was holding onto his waist with her steel-like vice grip as if he was her lifeline. It always drew a smile on his face when he woke up to the gorgeous sight of naked Tsunade lying on him. Something in her just screamed happiness and contentment in these situations. Must be because she was Senju. Yup, that is surely it, Ray thought sarcastically, enjoying the warmth of her body pressing to him as tightly as possible without it being uncomfortable. Ray's hand slowly rose and started gently caressing Tsunade's hair. Not enough to wake her, but enough to make her melt into him even more. The separation was really hard on both Tsunade and Ray, despite being together most of the nights. The longer it was, the more fidgety they became. Ray quickly assumed it had to do with the bond, but this kind of weakness didn't garner much worry from him. He quickly understood that making Tsunade leave for Konoha was one of the biggest mistakes he ever made. He didn't even need the bond subconsciously telling him that. Just losing her warm and firm hugs through the day was a good enough of a reason for him to start hating the current circumstances. But Ray was a man and a too prideful being to just tell her to abandon Konoha when she clearly quite liked working in the hospital, no matter how she grumbled about it. He just couldn't do it. In the end, Ray decided to suck it up and wait until the war ended. After that, he didn't really plan on letting Tsunade leave his side for a few weeks. As he pondered about these things, Ray suddenly blinked, finding himself staring at two honey-colored warm orbs staring straight at him with love and devotion that made him almost breathless. Yet another thing he missed about Tsunade. While Konan was definitely very loving, especially in their alone time, there was just something fierce and passionate in Tsunade that Konan couldn't match. Just like there was something calming and soothing in Konan that Tsunade couldn't dream to match. Morning, Ray whispered and smiled, realizing his fingers are still affectionately entwined with Tsunade's hair. Hi, Tsunade almost purred, propping herself up to give him a passionate morning kiss before she pulled her naked body upwards and sat on his stomach, giving him a show of her entire body. Needless to say, Ray was very interested, especially since Tsunade took his hand and put it on her left breast, making it squeeze a bit as she kept it there with her hand. Want to do some morning exercise? She hungrily asked with delightfully narrowed eyes, seductively biting her lower lip. Ray was really tempted to say yes, more so since he could actually feel just how wet she was, dripping her juices onto his stomach. In the end, however, he sighed and mentally cursed as he sadly shook his head. I remember you just wanted to pop in to show us the bingo book, and then go back and yet, Here you are, after 5 hours of nonstop very passionate sex. I don't think we will stop today if we actually start, and you still have some duties as the head of Konoha Hospital, Rei ruefully said, making Tsunade frown and let out a long whine as she petulantly wiggled her hips. It took a while for her to accept the situation, but with an incredibly irritated expression, Tsunade relented. Fine, but this weekend you are mine, she grumbled, knowing well there was no way in hell that would come true. Rei, knowing that too, just shrugged. It would, after all, come again to the good old-fashioned rivalry between the 4 bonded girls. He just hoped it would be a brawl in the mud this time, and not a freaking card game to decide which one of them will spend time with him. He wanted some good entertainment, damn it. I could always suggest it. Rei hummed to himself. A very suggestive smile started spreading on his face, only for Tsunade to give him an unimpressed, narrowed look. You are thinking something very punch-worthy right now, aren't you? She asked in a dry tone, making Rei vigorously shake his head. Of course not. How could I do that? You know M-. Yes, she drawled. And that's the problem. I know you. And rolled her eyes. Rei's sweat dropped at that, but Tsunade just chuckled and lovingly pecked him on the lips. And despite that, I just can't stop loving you, she said happily, pulling herself away from her position of straddling his stomach. She now laid herself on his left side, just in time as the door opened and inside walked Conan, who calmly marched her way to the right side of the king-sized bed. It didn't even take a hand gesture for her clothes to change into paper and being absorbed into her body as she, now fully naked, laid herself on Rei's right side. Morning, Rei too. We can start, Conan said with a small telling smile, causing Tsunade to stick her tongue out at her, before pulling out the newest bingo book from her dimensional inventory. I hereby inform you, she started playfully. As of yesterday, both Rei of Kiri and Conan of Kiri are the newest SS rankers in the bingo book for Suna, Kumo, and IWA respectively. Their rank is apparently for wide-scale destruction of large forces alone. Tsunade summarized before snorting. Bloody bullshit if you ask me. She clicked her tongue. These two I know personally, and they are as harmless as squirrels. About as cuddly too. Yeah. Everyone knows squirrels are just a tad bit too murder-happy. Conan rolled her eyes. Evil too. Rei quipped, and with the hand under Tsunade's waist, he reached for her bottom. Only if you feed them coffee, Tsunade exclaimed before yelping from the unexpected squeeze, a pink dusting appearing on her cheeks. And we all know you energized Rei a lot during the last night. Conan smirked at blushing Tsunade. I could clearly hear you going faster or dash. Tsunade quickly reached Conan, covering her mouth with her palms, but forgetting her state of undress, as her chest squished itself on Rei's stomach, providing a very nice view for Rei. Shut up, Conan. We both know just who is the biggest screamer of dash. Mei is in the door, Rei said, making Tsunade's eyes go wide in horror as her head whipped towards the still closed and locked door. Needless to say, she quickly turned to Rei, glaring, and about to scold him when she found herself held against his chest as his tongue invaded her mouth, her anger quickly forgotten. Rei pulled away, chuckling at Tsunade's silly smile, and gently chided. Now play nice, you two. Conan, Tsunade needs to go back to Konoha today. Don't try to goad her into a mind-blowing threesome. Not today. Conan became mildly subdued after hearing that, and gave a small nod. I am sorry, she said before giving a quick peck onto Rei's cheek and standing up, walking towards the door. In that case, I am going to fix a quick breakfast. After that nightly wrestling Tsunade had with you yesterday, she will naturally be starving. As if on cue, Tsunade's stomach grumbled, causing her to flush even more as she did the only thing that would get her out of her current predicament. She stood up and, dibs on shower. And just like that, the loudest member of the Konoha Sannin ran from the room with her proverbial tail tucked between her legs. Rei found himself alone in the room, still lying in the bed, and couldn't help but chuckle and shake his head at their antics. He took into his hands the bingo book and read his and Conan's new pages before chuckling some more. Now, I wonder what are the reactions of the important people to this new unforeseen development.